Now we want to turn back here to the state of New York, to Saratoga Springs in particular, where Black Lives Matter activists are being arrested, targeted by police there in Saratoga Springs. And we are very honored to have with us here on the show from Saratoga Black Lives Matter, Lexis Figuereo and TJ Sangare with us here on the show. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
No, the pleasure is really all ours. Now, I think a lot of people might not be paying attention to Saratoga Springs and haven't maybe fully seen what has happened. So, Alexis, I'll start with you. What is the situation there? What has taken place in terms of the arrest and how y'all are being targeted?
I mean, right now we've had 12 people arrested so far. There's supposedly a investigation of a July 14th protest that we had, which was a protest after we had not had protests for about 2 months or so, 3 months. We were doing nothing but community events. Uh, the assistant chief, John Catone, ended up making some racist statements, pretty much blaming BLM for the crime wave in Saratoga Springs, which is there's not much of a crime wave. And we have nothing to do with any of that crime. We're actually anti-violent and we believe in anti-violence. So now we're being targeted. Me personally, I was pulled over for a disorderly conduct, which is a violation, and I was pulled over. I had a little tree in my window. They said you had a tree in the window, get pulled over by two cop cars, get detained for about 8 hours, 9 hours, and this is what they're doing. They're doing this to a lot of us, and it's terrible. They're trying to
Wow.
shut us up.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it certainly. Wow. It was the tree and I mean, you think everyone has that. TJ, tell us. What your situation has been, and I think as Lexus was saying, from what I've been reading, it seems like this has been par for the course. They're just snatching y'all up and bringing people in and holding them for long series of hours.
Yeah, they're doing whatever they want. I've been at school in northern Vermont, so when everyone started getting arrested, I got a call about it, and not soon after that, I was informed that I would also be another person who had a arrest warrant out for them, and so I had to drive 3 hours home from school, miss classes, uh, go turn myself in, get booked, mugshot, get held in handcuffs and the belt like I was a violent offender. And I had to go all the way down there just so that they could put on a little show for themselves and feel good.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of the photos and the video I saw there, and one of the things that I saw mentioned, either of you can take this, and maybe you both know, also is that they were refusing to allow people to wear masks once they had been arrested. So, I mean, essentially forcing people to be overexposed to COVID.
Yeah, for sure. When I was arrested, I wasn't offered a mask. I didn't have a mask when I was in there. So I was in there for about 8 to 9 hours. And I know somebody who was held overnight. They asked for a mask, and the officer said no. I mean, I was actually, denied medical care as well while I was there. So they definitely wasn't worried about no mask.
Hmm. Wow. Well, TJ, tell me a little bit more about the organizing y'all are doing, because I think that's always a key question I have in these situations, because I assume when I see these things happen that they're actually concerned about the impact that's
Mm,
being had.
right. Like you'd think that the streets are on fire or something, but on the contrary, a lot of times you'll find us in the park having community events, free food drives, educational events. We did Narcan training, we did some EMS training. On top of that, we'll be marching in the streets sometimes, but like Lex said, we weren't even out that much this past summer, especially. And it's just crazy because all this is just to stop from for them to stop the truth coming out and for them to stop an investigation, and they're just gonna do whatever it takes.
Lexus, I could maybe I could guess the answer to this question, but I mean, I think so many people have seen the uprising that took place last year, the broader movement for Black Lives over the past few years. Are the police in Saratoga Springs more or less like the police everywhere else in terms of racism and brutality?
I would have to say more.
Mm.
And I would say more because they've been, held to this standard and never been held accountable ever for any of their actions. There's a few different deaths by the hands of police that have never been investigated ever, including Daryl Mount, 2013. Anybody can Google that name. A lot of stuff comes up about that. You know, the boy supposedly fell from 19 feet scaffolding on a chase from the police. Ends up, you know, with marks only to his head, in a coma for 9 months till he ends up dying. You know, 21-year-old boy. So this is what we're fighting. And, you know, we're fighting for that investigation. That's our number one priority in Saratoga Springs. They don't
Mhm.
want that.
No, that's crucial, and you know, I don't know what you all think about this, but I know that I believe there was a hearing last night in the city council, and there's some discussion about a civilian review board and other pieces like that. How do you all feel about that? Is that just window dressing, something you'd like to see?
I mean, we've been talking about a civilian review board since last year when they put down the police task force. You know, when the Cuomo made the executive order 203. We were at every single one of those meetings, including for Saratoga County and for the city of Saratoga Springs. We had 50 recommendations that were supposed to be put forth by the task force, and the city council adopted them, but they didn't actually implement them yet. You know, this is about a year later now. We're still waiting for them to be implemented. Who knows if it ever happens? You know, they were fighting for a civilian review board for the last 10 to 12 years in Saratoga Springs. They've been denied every time.
Wow. Wow. You know, TJ, I think you spoke to this already a little bit in terms of having to come back to school and be arrested and all of these different pieces. Talk a little bit, if you could, just about the human toll of this, because one of the things that I've found frustrating about the coverage that I've seen is like, oh, well, you know, they're only being arrested for this or that misdemeanor, basically making it seem like this isn't that serious. It's not a big deal. You know, people shouldn't be outraged. And so just if you could talk a little bit about that human impact of being caught up in this.
Well, yeah, and I think you just said it. Like they make it feel like it's not a big deal, and people try to stress that point, like, oh, like you're gonna be fine. Like it's only this, it's only that, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is because it's not okay. And this is a real slippery slope because as soon as people allow them to do this and allow them to do that, then it's going to turn into something that we don't want to see.
Hmm.
And yeah, and like you said, we're humans. Like we're not out here for fun. We're not out here just to mess around. Like we're out here because we care. And it's crazy seeing this.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, it feels almost through the looking glass. I can tell you in protest, I've blocked every single major street in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital in the middle of rush hour and was never arrested. So the idea that people are being criminalized for something like this is just outrageous. Uh, Lexus, talk a little bit about what's next for Saratoga BLM. I mean, I know you all aren't going to stop fighting. So, you know, what are some of the things moving forward that people can be looking for?
I mean, we have a event this Sunday actually in Congress Park in Saratoga Springs. It's actually called Cookies and No Cops. You know, it's going to be a mutual aid event. We're going to be doing donations and stuff like that, but we're going to have a lot of free items. Obviously, it's mutual aid; everything's free. People are welcome to donate towards our cause for our legal funds and things like that. But besides that, we're gonna have food there, free food, drinks, live music as well. You know, once again, our community driven events that we were doing. So that's all we have for right now, besides asking people to continue to, you know, keep emailing these DAs, emailing the AGA, and getting our story out for sure. Our assistant chief, like I said, Gatone, said that he was going to use 130 years of his family's power to, you know, change our narrative. And our narrative is that, you know, Daryl Mount's investigation should happen, and that the police should be held accountable.
Hmm.
Plain and simple.
Well, I'm sure there's probably plenty of people watching around the country, watching around the world who'd like to follow what y'all are doing. Where can they find you on social media or on the internet and offer their support?
They can follow us at Saratoga Black Lives Matter, and that's going to be on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook as well. We have a private group on Facebook where we're putting up a public one in the next few days. And you can follow me at Figuereo on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. So keep following us. We'll keep you up to date. We always keep the post up to date. We always respond.
Right on. Well, hey, I really appreciate y'all giving us some of your time. Really appreciate all the work that you were doing. Lexis, TJ, Saratoga, Black Lives Matter. Really appreciate you joining us here on the Freedom Side.